Alright, welcome back, guys. This is not just the Acer Team Story Cup, but at this point, match point. There's no coming back after this for Team Liquid. It's Taeja or nothing from here on out. Of course, displayed in the top right, you can see the score. 4 points, 4 wins currently under the belt of Axiom, and Crank has procured almost all of them to the 2 wins of Team Liquid. Now, before we get going with the introductions, I want to give a big shout out to people who have been participating in chat, not just talking, but also voting. We got 262 people who have voted on these 2 teams, 44% in the favor of Axiom. That's 115 people voting for Axiom, with a big 147, 56% for Team Liquid. So I gotta say, I love that so many people coming out today to support their favorite teams, but getting into this properly, spawning in the upper left corner of Akalon Waste, playing for Axiom, their team captain. It's been the badass player of the day, Crank.
And in the bottom right, as the red Terran, it's going to be Liquid's Taeja.
Now, it's worth noting, some of you might be like, wait a minute, why is Taeja playing again? He lost earlier today. The Acer Team Story Cup has a very special rule, a very specific rule, where when you're on a match point, so game 5 as it were, as it is currently, or the 5th, whatever loss, you can bring back one player that's already played. You don't have to, but you have the option of doing it if you'd like. So Taeja, who did in fact already fall to Crank, has come back for round number 2. And last time I gotta say, we didn't really get to see the best play out of Taeja. As whether you're bronze or grandmasters, everyone loses to blink all-ins at some point in their career. And against a player like Crank, who's a really good player in the first place, to put behind the wheel of a blink all-in, not at all surprised that it went the way it did. But I think this time we'll see a much better game out of Taeja. I hope. Knock on wood.
Hopefully. I really just think he's very susceptible to blink all-ins. So if he can survive that, plus he didn't even identify that it was like that's what was happening, right? So if he identifies that's actually what's happening and plays a save game, then I think Taeja could definitely take this.
Well, Crank's just kind of chilling out here as the SCV comes in. Not that this SCV is exactly going to deny, but at least this means there's not going to be an engineering bay block. Something that's very common in this matchup to Protoss players who delay their expansions, but Crank only taking the one guess. Of course, we knew he was going to go for that quicker Nexus anyways. SV doesn't get a lot of information. The biggest thing, though, is that seeing the assimilator coming down so late on that second gas means that any sort of tech from Crank will be a little bit delayed. If there is going to be something insane like a blink all-in, it's not going to be very early. But 2 Marines come out again. Taeja, I don't know why he's sending these out early. It's for those who don't know, you need 3 well-microed Marines to take on a Mothership Core. 2 Marines against an A-move Mothership Core. No matter how good you micro them, still lose to it. So
yeah.
I guess maybe hoping to catch probes or something.
Yeah, it's got to be like catching probes, because of course he has SCV out, so he knows it's not like they're not searching for a proxy. You don't get a Nexus when you proxy, so it's got to be searching for that probe. And he does go to the most common spot to see a proxy, or yeah, proxy pylon, which is, you know, right near that would-be 4th.
Factory's on the way here. I don't know. I'd love to see Hellions come out of Taeja and really just harass Crank, maybe catch him off guard, because there's not a lot that really deals well with Hellions early on, but with the Reaper coming out this late, it's going to, again, be used for scouting more than anything else. You don't really do damage with a Reaper in the mid-game versus Protoss, but the amount of scouting information it's going to get is going to be very limited, as of course there's already Stalkers out from Crank. There's a Sentry. I mean, shutting down a Reaper is not exactly going to be too difficult.
Well, Crank's getting +1 armor, so I mean it's definitely not going to be a blink all-in, and Taeja's going to go for that Widowmine drop once again, or just a Widowmine like pressure deciding, you know, depending on what he wants to do with it. But this Reaper should be able to just, like, you know, whatever it sees, it's going to be something that tells Taeja I can relax, I don't have to worry about an all-in or anything like that.
Yeah, with the +1 armor coming out early like this, I really feel like that we're going to see Storms open here out of Crank. But ooh, that Reaper with 4 health gets in, sees there's no additional tech yet, so that's going to give him a big sigh of relief, knowing that the Twilight Council's not down, which means Blink is not going to be coming out anytime soon. And again, even if Taeja's probably going to play to the fact that this is a fresh game, he's not going to be playing to the fact that he just lost to Crank, because I mean that was a few games ago for Crank at this point. I don't think he was too paranoid of the Blink all-in coming, but it was nice that he can confirm that that's not going to be the case.
Mm-hmm. probably do see the Twilight Council is going to go down. That was what I expected. I expected he's going to get charged and, of course, go up to High Templar. That's actually been, like, the most popular openers now, is going into the High Templar immediately rather than the Colossus openers, which really dominated of most of StarCraft for a very long time in PvT. But this drop is going to be a drop in the main and an attack at the front. So what you can happen, especially on this map, is that you can force the cannon on either Nexus and then go in the middle and actually engage any of the stalkers or whatever that's trying to attack. And that can become very cost efficient. But Crank, being very, very careful, is getting the 2 cannons. And that is exactly what Teach does. He goes in the middle.
Oh, his positioning with that Widowmine. I love the positioning with the Widowmine, though, too. It's going to be great for zoning out units that come too close, but it has to be careful, of course. I can put one on the bottom of the ramp. There's that overcharge still going, but actually he doesn't have vision enough to actually shoot on that ramp at the bottom. So because of that, all the Marines just walk towards the top. What am I going to bow right in front of the sentries? Is focused down, but as the sentries get picked off, they're a little bit more costly than Marines. So not exactly training too well here initially as Crank, but more sentries going to go down. Ooh, that's actually really not good now. But he loses the medevac, so a lot of the power of this push has been kind of shut down. Widowmine bros in front of the cannon, but Crank pulls back immediately, so he doesn't lose any probes to it, and still scuffling around with these Marines. Can go for the Mothership Core. Oh, this could be big if he gets it. Oh, he's trying to focus it. Just barely gets it. Nice. Pops it off.
I think Crank thought it was going to survive, because he definitely should have been able to save that, and that is super unfortunate. Luckily for him, the Dark Shrine, was it scouted? I don't think it was. Wait, where is it?
At the natural, I think? Yeah, coming down to the south.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it was not scouted.
Yeah, that's very, very nice, because the Proxy Pylon's already there. He's going to get in the main. There's what looks to be a future wall in the making, but no missile turret, and this is going to do a lot of damage.
Zombie Grub, if Zealots aren't hard enough to clean up as is with those armor upgrades, Dark Templar are not much better. It's even if he scans these Dark Templar, there's a chance that he might not even be able to kill them because it's such a low Marine count that will be split up between the 2 bases. I mean, it's not field, but he's going to have to split them, of course, and Crank sneaks by. I don't think Taeja saw this, or he'd already have moved.
No, he did not. No. Now he sees it. Now he sees it. Puts down the missile turret immediately.
He can't scan. There's no energy on either of the orbitals. This is going to cost him a lot.
He's probably going to lose up to like 15 SCVs. He needs 10 more seconds on both of these orbitals, I believe. The missile turret will be down in the front, but not in the mineral line. Another DT is warped in. Crank sees that his DTs are going to do so much more damage, so he is going to invest in them more and more. Also getting a Warp Prism for later DT heroes.
All right, DT in the main gets picked off. DT in the natural, though, has killed 15 workers still and hasn't been cleaned up yet. 20 in total, 21. As this count rises, coming towards the main again, there's another scan available, but Taeja has to be careful how he uses this. He doesn't want the Dark Templar to escape. Picks that off, nicely done. Natural base still being attacked. 24 workers killed so far. Not exactly the end of the world, as Taeja does have that quick third orbital up. So mules will replace this. SCVs will be built. It won't be the biggest problem, but this was a lot more damage than I think should have happened.
Yeah, I would say so. It just happened at the perfect point, you know? I mean, there's actually a really wide gap where it can happen with 50 energy, but double drop was scouted. That was a nice pylon.
Yeah, but the Warp Prism also came out to drop, so Taeja is hoping to get a bit of offensive damage done here, but he might need everything home to defend, because while there's no Dark Templar to worry about, this Warp Prism can warp in more. It's going to unload a lot of Zealots that have +2 armor, and quite frankly, he's going to ravage things if this goes uncontested.
Yeah. Taeja's playing definitely from a behind position. Now it's going to get even farther behind. In fact, I think Crank's just going to wait until he sees the army moving out and then go with the Warp Prism. He's going to see it with the probe. Nope, actually. Because he wants to wait for Storm. There's always a chance that Taeja can do something without splash damage. But it's not going to be there. He's going to have to force field it off and then play very, very cautiously. Of course, he has that cannon, I believe. Yeah, he did remake that with the Shipcore.
Guardian Shield goes down immediately, but it's picked off. Picks off 1 sentry, backs up, doesn't really lose too much for it, but in the main, Zealots have been unloaded. Gonna run to the choke here. Taeja, love that he's utilizing his SimCity, but again, these are Zealots with 2 armor. They don't go down very quickly. No. That's a lot more Zealots with 2 armor. Those are not going to go down at all. Taeja's going to have to come home or cause some severe damage. Coming home with these medevacs, boosting, desperately trying to get here to defend against this. This is a massive Warpin, and of course, he's going to be so busy cleaning up the Zealots, he doesn't have time to pick off the Warp Prism, so another Warpin may just come in, but no, Crank decides to pull back out of there, doesn't risk it. That could have been much worse for Taeja if he didn't come back home. But 34 workers have been killed so far. Lots of economic damage has been done at this point, and more SCVs still falling. God, Zealots with 2 armor are absurd.
They're pretty good. Luckily, Taeja has not fallen behind on his upgrades too badly. He is getting the Viking. Okay, that was one thing I was going to say he should definitely get is invest in just one Viking. You know that he's going to go for Storm. You saw it. So the Vikings, you know, aren't going to be made, but just one Viking will deter the Warp Prism pretty effectively. He boosts out with the meta. That was funny. Oh my god, he's going to catch the Warp Prism.
Beautiful sniping.
That was so sick. Was that a...
That was full.
Like, that was sick.
I don't know if that was on purpose or coincidence, but one way or another, that worked out magnificently for Taeja. Because if that Warp Prism was still alive, pushing could possibly end the game. If his whole army's across the map and he loses to a big warping of Zealots at home, that could be GG. But now he's able to press the issue without any concern. Back at home, gets on top of the Nexus to overcharge his pop, but that's not going to matter. He's going to focus this down. He's going to pick up and he's going to try and get out of there. So beautiful snipe here out of Taeja, getting back into this game and proper in Zombie Grub. As fantastic as this has been, I need to draw attention to the fact that we just shattered the base Straight TV viewer record. Currently at 5,600 people. Thank you guys. Thank you. This is a record-breaking moment for viewership. You guys are awesome. I want to thank every single person watching right now. But this has been a fantastic game. Taeja's taken so much heat at home, but he's still in this in a big way. He's not exactly ahead at this point, but he's not nearly as in danger as he was moments ago when that Warp Prism was still alive. And another Warp Prism is being remade, but Crank with double robos, man. There's no way Taeja's going to have the Viking production to match 2 Colossus at a time.
No. He just doesn't have Ghosts or Vikings right now, so he really doesn't have anything to counter all the splash that Crank has, and that's really how Taeja's behind. Not only in, you know, the supply count, which usually at this point a Terran player would want to be up by 10 to 20 supply, but also just in the tech. It's, you know, he doesn't have either one, and the DTs are also going to be a continual problem for him. He could remake the Warp Prism at any time and harass more with that. Looks like he's going to go into the third. The rocks are broken down, though, so he's not going to be able to get in there. And there's no one in the bunker, but there's, you know, units always going to be at the front to make sure that no DTs do sneak in. But Taeja, what can he do right now? He really can't, you know, engage, that's for sure. He's going to have to really rely on drops and just putting the Puros out of position. It's just so hard to do on Akalon.
It really is, but he snipes off the observers. That gets him a little bit back into this. We don't have a lot of observers on the field for Crank just yet, but I gotta say, Crank, I was pointing this out while you were talking, he's got proxy pylons everywhere, and this isn't so much the fact that the pylons are there to warp him, but more about the map control that Taeja hasn't had this whole game. Forced to almost turtle up within his own 3 bases. Big warping coming towards the main. Can he pick this off, though, before it loads the Templar? Templar goes off. Storms will go down.
Completely misses everything. It's one SCV, so not exactly worth it.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, very anticlimactic. That was really well done. He had that one Viking that was spotting, so he was able to rally his units and get that, because that could have been, you know, really, really bad. And oh my god, Crank throws down 3 Stargates. What? Wow. This is something you might see like 25 minutes into the game, not 18 minutes. So this will be crazy.
Well, I mean, okay, what we're probably going to see out of this are Phoenixes, guys. A couple Phoenixes here initially paired up with some Void Rays later on. Phoenixes are great for kind of zoning out the metavanks and chasing them down, but most importantly, they'll vanguard the Colossus. The Void Rays do the same job, and they're great at killing Vikings, but Phoenixes are cheaper, they're easier to make. So we'll probably see a good couple of them come out, but this will probably lead into a good chunk of Void Rays later.
And if he gets that Fleet Beacon, he can go in a Tempest later, which would be very, very deadly. Okay, he's going to go in Tempest.
Immediately puts that down. So Tempest, alright, not the best against Bio to begin with, or Vikings for that matter, but the thing is they've got this massive range. So what you can do is force your opponent to fight. Because of course Taeja's never going to want to sit back and take free hits over and over again, regardless of how much damage it does. You don't give away free hits like that. So the biggest thing about the Tempest, they're not going to one-shot this whole army. They attack so slow and they move so slow, and they're not good versus Bio, but they force fights, which is fantastic if your opponent's playing like Taeja, where you're constantly kind of sitting back and waiting for openings.
Yeah. He's going to have enough time to do this, no problem. Taeja is, you know, he's starting to get maxed out, and he might push out once he's maxed out. By that time, Crank's going to have, you know, 6 Tempests, and that's going to be really hard to engage into, and he's going to be able to take his 4 bases super easily and remax constantly and just, you know, harass Taeja to death, honestly. He's going to have the better army all the time. Taeja, he's going to want to get, like, planetaries, a bunch of orbitals, start, you know, shutting off those SCVs to get the really big army, and mostly, you know, get really high-tech, you know, a lot of Vikings and a lot of Ghosts. You know, the end game composition that we see in PvP.
Yeah, Vikings and Ghosts are so sexy because oftentimes, as we see, observers are now being made for Crank, but up until this point, he's had almost none available to him. So, Blanket Storm there, just kind of keep the army at bay. Still going to lose one of these Templar, might lose the second one as well. Love when Terran players split off those small stim packs to try and chase this down, but this is actually a really bad spot for Crank to take a fight. He does not want to and can't, frankly, engage here. Vikings give you chase. They pick off one of the Colossus immediately. He might be on 3-2, but Taeja, of course, on 3-3 with his ground weapons. There's not a lot of stalkers here either. In fact, these Vikings actually don't have a lot to send them out at all. Zombie Grub, this is actually really bad for Crank. The composition's not going to work out. Beautiful EMPs go down, blanketing the entire army. Good storm on the ramp, but it isn't going to be enough. The Vikings still just pressing forward. Taeja could just pull back for a moment, and all these Colossus will be gone in a moment. He wouldn't have to actually fight the ground forces at the same time. Every Viking takes out the Colossus, and now he can land and start utilizing them if there was still bio behind this. But unfortunately, losing most of what was on the ground, forced to back up is Taeja.
Counterattack at the Planetary doesn't do too much, takes I believe a few SCB kills, but of course the Planetary was more than enough to deal with that, and that went sort of even. They both lost
yeah, a bit of a wash.
Yeah, Taeja I think came out better just because he kept all of his, he kept a lot of ghosts. I think he picked those up, and he kept a lot of the Vikings. So if he had lost all of those, and Crank had lost all of his high-tech, then it would be completely even. But Crank lost a lot more high-tech units than Taeja did, and Taeja can just, remax with the Barrack units, because it's the ghosts and the Vikings that take the longest to make, and you don't want to remake, seriously. The Marines and Marauders just make them all day.
Yeah, to talk about the Tempest count real quick, guys, we're talking about how quote-unquote ineffective they are. We just saw them be rather ineffective, but we see them continue to invest into a lot of them because, unfortunately, the Tempest only get that massive bonus damage versus massive units, no pun intended, but they only hit for 33 otherwise. So you need a lot of them to start one-shotting these units to utilize their range to the fullest extent. Taeja, with the best observer snipes this game, holy moly, has picked them off relentlessly and non-stop. But this ghost count is getting out of hand. They do have Cloak, they got a lot of EMPs, and if all the observers are taken away, there's only 2 available. If all these observers go down, there's nothing to stop the Cloak Ghosts. And Ghosts, 13 damage a hit. That's quite a lot when you consider how fast they attack.
There's only 3 High Templar too, so Taeja or Crank's really only relying on Colossus and Tempest, and those storms are merely just there in case things go bad and he has to use them, like we saw he did. But if he had more than that, if he was able to spread them out, it's just so hard against so many ghosts. And this is the point where the Terran army starts looking more frightening than the Protoss army. That's super, super late game with all the ghosts and all the Vikings. And all the upgrades too. Remember that the upgrades were buffed, so the Vikings are actually a lot stronger than they would be usually.
Yeah, well, actually not investing too much into these have been naked Vikings for the longest time, but we finally see Taeja actually going for a load up. Never mind, just misclicking. I was gonna say a load up would be really nice at this point, trying to go for a drop because we know Crank's gonna be deathballing. He's not gonna be splitting his forces up trying to defend it like the main base wall, a big threat at the natural. But rocks are taking down here, and over Taeja, he's gonna have to put some depots or barracks or something down to replace that, because of course these warpins are gonna be a constant threat throughout the game. Love that cloak micro, by the way. You don't see that too often, but it keeps the ghost alive. So well played. 5th base has been taken from Crank.
I really thought he would be doing both armor and air upgrades by now, so they're actually completely normal Vikings, just with +1 attack. At this point, you really want to throw down that second armory when it's getting to that position where you have to say, okay, it's going to get into a long game.
The observers are really, constant. Zombie Grub. There's only 3 observers left at this point, and one's not even with the army. So this could be like he's constantly losing them all the time here by constantly making Colossus. He can't afford to take a break in that production to build out those additional observers. And this many Vikings, man, these are gonna one-shot so easily anything.
He's getting 2 more star forts. He's getting +3 vehicle or both weapons.
Well, mech weapons, I guess we call them. Yeah.
Yeah, mech weapons, and the 2 starports though. He's gonna have 4, right? Like he already had 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna have 4 starports. So that's gonna be a very quick remax on Vikings if he loses all of them. And it's got to be for that. I mean, if he went battlecruisers, it might mind. Like,
well, that's the Achilles heel of Terran, right? Regardless of whether you're mech or bio, it's your production that slows you down. You can't match in 10 warp gates of production at a time. But having all these extra Vikings. There's not a lot of blink stalkers here. There's not that many storms available. I mean, there's not a lot to zone out the Vikings of Taeja, and I think that's the one weakness in Crank's army. And a good storm would be nice, but all Taeja has to do is split up, right, to avoid that damage.
He's gonna attack into this 5th. This 5th will be really hard to hold. The Vikings could get a good position over the Colossus.
Oh, they're absolutely gonna get a good position.
And he gets the EMPs. EMPs are blanketing everything. And who will this go out for? The Colossus do so much damage, the ground army just melts.
Yeah, the ground army might be gone, but there's nothing left to stop these Vikings from going on a bit of a rampage. There was a single Archon, but it got taken out really quick. Oh, actually, with the storm going down, last temp is about to fall. Only a couple Stalkers left. If these had 3-3 upgrades, Yeah, if these had 3/3 upgrades, those Colossus would have died.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. But he has, once again, he has those 4 starports, so he's able to reproduce the Vikings so fast, as well as the Ghosts. His production should be very, very, very powerful. I mean, all the barracks, all the starports. And, of course, he still has 4 bases compared to his opponent's 5. You really want to take that 5th base out. But now he's going to get his only 5th, so it should even up. But that went a lot better for Crank. And Taeja...
Yeah.
Yeah, Taeja's... I don't know if he should just stay back and wait for Crank to try and attack, because sometimes Terran players will love, they'll want to do that, but most Terran players feel very uncomfortable just staying back and doing that. They want to be out on the map, trying to attack, trying to take those engagements, not relying on the Protoss player to come to them.
Man, again, sniping off these cloaked units. Taeja is not at that point where he's also got like 11 orbitals down, so these scans are not exactly for free yet. I gotta say, like, investing in like 1 Raven at this point could have saved him so many resources, but not like his scans have been bad. He's picked off observers every time. There's never really been a wasted scan so far this game. And I gotta say, like, you consider that, what is this, like a massacre of like 40 plus workers at the start of the game to those Dark Templar? Taeja's still in this, so strong, like not something any other player could really pull off.
Yeah. Oh, this attack's coming in from Crank. Crank still has a lot of Tempest left over. I mean, he's still making them. He still thinks that they're a very good unit mixture to have, and I think it is, so far has been very good for him. Soaking up any Viking shots whatsoever, so the Colossus deal maximum damage is always very, very good. And he just stims in here. I don't think it's a good idea. No, he stims into
big
Storm.
storms.
Oh my god.
Tempest might be taken out here, but it's kind of one of those at what cost moments. Archon's being depleted on the ground due to those EMPs, but the Vikings still going strong. There is an observer here, so that cloak is not helping very much, but the Vikings start picking off the Colossus, and this will sound the retreat for Crank. But Zombie Grab, I was talking about a Raven for detection. I completely forgot a point defense drone does nullify Tempest hits. The attack's so slow. A point defense drone for Taeja could change everything, but no Ravens in sight. We don't have any Corvid reactors. We got, I don't think, even any tech labs on those starports. What the heck did they even come down here? There's 2 in the main. Where are the other 2? At the natural?
The other 2 are reactors.
All reactors.
Yeah. So no Ravens or anything like that coming out. Just a lot of Vikings. I think the main problem has been the Colossus aren't going down. The Tempest are. So he's not focus firing the Vikings as much as maybe he could have been. Now the Colossus will definitely go down, but the ground army looks strong enough to defeat Taeja anyways.
Well, Planetary Fortress is going to aid a lot into this. EMPs do blanket a lot of this, but there's so many Zealots charging in here with 3/3. With the Cloak available, actually, he lands the Vikings now to try and hold this. Scans actually picks off the last 2 observers, so now the Ghosts, unfortunately out of energy, are starting to decloak, but this holds. Crank going to be pushed back again.
I think the Planetary is really helping out here. Plus,
really
the Ghosts are being mostly untouched. They're like staying in the back, so he's able to keep that 5 to 6 Ghost count pretty consistently, as well as keep his Vikings alive. And Crank, I think he's starting to worry a little bit here. He said, I thought that looked I thought this might have been the game-ending move, but now I'm having a difficult time remaxing. He's down by 60 supply.
Yeah, and you just go back to the point you made before that fight too. The focus fire on the Tempest would be completely not necessary if there's a point defense drone, right? Like you could ignore the attacks and just go for the Colossus.
You really want to see a Raven.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, what's amazing is you consider that's the best option for this scenario for Taeja, but he's still in a good spot without the Ravens.
Oh, it's getting so... I think Crank, he's going to have to rely on the Storms, that's for sure, but he had high Templars in the back, so there are
a lot more
of storms
storms
left over.
The cannons go down, though. Not a lot of static defense left. No Mothership Core, of course. No overcharge. Zealots charging in with a couple Tempests, but there's no AoE other than these storms. If these miss, or even if they get sniped or EMP'd, there's no Colossus follow-up to this. This is the last standing army of Crank. And he's going to lose everything here. The Vikings going to clean up the Tempest, which means there's nothing to stop them. The Colossus will go down, and Crank, who looked like he was ahead for like 90% of this game, is actually going to lose. Well, actually, no, not if he...
It looks like it.
It looks like it, but...
Even if he doesn't win here...
GG.
Yeah, okay. So...
Taeja bringing it back, guys. 4-3.
That was super well done by Taeja. Taeja, he just had patience, man. Like, yeah, he was engaging, so that's not what I mean by patience, but, if you guys put yourself in his position by then, you'd probably be like, stupid Protoss, so flippin' OP. And he was like, no, I'll just keep trying to take those good engagements until I finally get some. And he finally started getting some, attacking the Planetary, maybe not the best thing that Crank could have done.
Well, regardless of what happened, I think that was a good game one way or another. Whether you're a Terran fan or a Protoss fan alike, you have to admit that was a good game. But, yeah, big question is next. Who does Axiom send out? I think Ryong would be a pretty good bet. His TVT is pretty darn solid. But So is Taeja. So it's not an easy choice to make at this point. But they can't resurrect anyone just yet. They're not a match point. One more game to go. We'll see if we get there. But guys, 6,700 people now. An absolute like record-shattering day for Base Trade TV. 5,500 was our previous record. I want to thank you guys for tuning in as we toss out to these ads. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a couple minutes.